we cannot think our way out of our problems. And the biggest obstacle that I really think we have is our dependence on our own thoughts and our own will and our own resources for control of our life. And what we're relying on there is a very unstable source of power. It's very so some of you who have been with me before, you've heard me talk about the ego. If you're in the Inspired Love program, you've definitely heard me talk about the ego. So the ego is a very unreliable source of power, and the ego is like the small protective self. Let me make sure I'm safe. Let me make sure I have everything under control. Let me make sure that everything goes my way. Let me make sure that everybody likes me and I get everyone's approval and I get everyone's validation. And let me make sure that things don't get too uncomfortable or things don't get too difficult or, all those kinds of things. That is all the ego, all those fears, concerns, worries, anxieties, needing to be in control, needing to know the outcome, needing to have everybody like you or get everybody's approval, or if they don't like you, you feel rejected or awful about yourself. All of that is the ego. And the ego creates our problems and then tries to solve our problems. And so it's like it tells you you're not enough. And then it tells you, but if you do these things, you'll be enough. And then we go do those things and then we still don't feel like we're enough. And then the ego tells me, well, you just didn't do it right. You need to do it this way this time. Or you just weren't enough. You need to be a little better next time. And the ego's always got some reason that it wasn't enough. But if you just do the next thing, it'll be better. And this goes on and on and on and on and on until we die, pretty much. Unless we can somehow get free of the ego. And so what I wanted to talk about today is that you cannot think your way out of your mind. You cannot think your way out of your problems. You cannot think your way into confidence. If you're out there dating, trying to meet people and trying to, doing your thing, whatever it is, trying to find the one, doing your thing, and you're trying to be more confident or be more assertive or be more grounded, like you're not going to be able to think your way into that. It's not going to happen like that. Your thinking is always going to make you feel like you were not enough. Now, there is some value in recognizing what your beliefs are. There's some value in recognizing, okay, where do I operate from? What is the lens through which I see the world? As I'm experiencing life, how am I internalizing that within my body? How is that feeling within me, right? So there is value in understanding your beliefs, your perceptions, your points of view, and knowing the lens through which you view the world. There is value in that. But the awareness of it is not the same thing as trying to think your way out of it. Like, yes, you want to be aware of it. Okay, these are my beliefs. This is the lens through which I see the world. This is how I often feel about myself. These are some of my automatic assumptions. But once you have the awareness of that, you need some help to get free of it. You don't just think your way out of it on your own power. And so what really needs to happen is you need to integrate all the aspects of yourself that you have been keeping at bay through this overactive and controlling mind. Always wanting to know the outcome, always wanting to make sure everything goes the right way, making sure I'll never get hurt, making sure I'll never be disappointed, making sure I'll never be let down, making sure I'll never be rejected, making sure I get everyone's approval. You've got to be willing to feel and experience and express everything it is that all of that has been keeping at bay. And the truth is that most of us have spent our lives avoiding everything that's uncomfortable to us. If we got rejected by someone early on in life, we felt that rejection and it hurt, and we felt alone or abandoned or isolated. But whatever it was, we had this feeling, this experience. And then what happened is we started to live our lives in such a way to try to ever prevent ourselves from feeling that ever again. And some of you might say, well, I feel things all the time, so I don't think I've done that. Well, that may or may not be true. You'll have to do your own investigation and find out for yourself. But this is what I have found to be true for the majority of people, myself included. Those of us who say like, well, I feel things and I'm very in touch with my emotions, we usually have a limited spectrum of emotion. Like say if the potential spectrum of emotion was like this, we usually feel things within like this spectrum. And then there are people who are like completely detached, who have very little emotion and they're just kind of cold. And so they would even have less. They would be like this, or maybe like this, right? And then, maybe the majority of people are kind of like this. But the true spectrum of emotion that's available is like this. And what's happened is we've got so conditioned to not want to feel the things that are uncomfortable for us, is that we've adjusted our lives and our behavior and the way we do things, the way we approach things, the way we think about things, the risks we're willing to take or not take, and all of this. And like, I would say that every single aspect of your life has been affected in some way by your attempts to not want to feel things that are uncomfortable for you. Every single aspect of your life in some way has been affected. And I'm talking about myself too. So it's not just you, it's all of us, right? But every single one of us have adjusted every single area of our lives to avoid things that are uncomfortable for us, or to avoid things that are painful for us. And then what happens is we're dealing with a very narrow window of possibility in our lives. Because we've shut down so much of ourselves to try to feel safe, to try to feel secure, and to try to feel okay, and to not have to deal with the big, heavy, uncomfortable things, we've also limited our lives to a very narrow window of possibility. So things come up. I mean, just like the kinds of things we say, actually, this would be a great exercise for everybody, is watch your own language. Watch your own language when you're talking to people, when you're just hanging out with your friends, or when you're talking to your mother or whoever, right? But just watch your own language. Watch the words that come out of your mouth and really pay attention, and you will learn a lot about yourself. And, people just say things like, I'm just going with some common ones, okay? Like, I'm not talking about anybody in particular, but just going with some common ones like, there are no good men around here. Or it's impossible to meet people out here. You can only meet people in X, Y, and Z in the city or in wherever else. Or what else do people say? People say things like, I have a bad picker. You ever heard somebody say that? It's like, we're just walking around telling ourselves, like, reinforcing the belief that I am incapable of selecting a good partner. Just like reinforcing that belief over and over and over again. Or people say things like, I only attract narcissists, or I only attract this or that or the other thing. Or, I'm only attracted to people who aren't attracted to me. And if you just watch your own language, and you just watch the things you say about yourself and about life and about men or women or the opposite sex or the same sex or other people or like everything. You just watch yourself talk and watch the words that come out of your mouth and watch your beliefs be illustrated in front of you. And then what you think is happening, the majority of people, what we think is happening is we think that we're talking about the way it is. What we don't realize is we're actually cultivating a vibrational frequency that is maintaining it the way it is.